Sherry and I have been resource parents for foster children for the past 10 years, adopting 3 of them in New Jersey. We want to truth tell about what's involved in fostering children. It's a huge, life-changing decision. So you're thinking of fostering children and bringing them into your home. Should you? Well, the question is it worth it? And should you get into the foster system at all?
It's worth it if you're looking to adopt children for whatever your reason may be. The only reason that you should be involved in the foster system is if that is your goal to adopt children at the end.
But people would also mention the money part as well, because people are not going to do this for free. I mean, you have to have a room in your house, a bed for a child that's brought to you to sleep on. Why isn't it worth it financially, money wise?
If you're trying to get into being a foster parent, thinking that you can use it as a job and that you will make a certain amount of money, caring for these kids, it's not like being a daycare provider. You're not going to make any money over and above what the children's needs are. I mean, especially not in our state. I know some other states you can make more money per child. And it also goes by the acuity level of the child. So if you have a child that has any kind of special needs that they are already classified before they come in your house, that will bump your amount up. But again, I mean, once you start talking about food and clothes and toys and anything they need for school and you start adding it up, it's just like you have your own child. You don't have a massive amount of money at the end of the month that you're going to be able to keep in a bank account and say, okay, now I can pay this bill with that, or I can pay for this with that. It doesn't work that way. Usually at the end of the month, if you have anything left, you're extremely, extremely fortunate because that's not how it is. This is not something that you want to get into as a business or a money maker because it is.
I want the people to know, how did we start even before we had our first foster child? Why did we get involved?
For me, I always wanted to foster to adopt. My grandmother used to foster and she would tell me the stories of like how the kids would come in and she would help them and all that. And then for whatever reason, we could not have children of our own. And that's when I asked you about wanting to, possibly foster to adopt. And we thought that was the right thing for us. So that's what we started doing. Well, we started by going online. I tried to call our local foster agency in our county and no one would answer the phone. So I went to the website and I filled out, there's a whole questionnaire of why you want to become a foster parent. And would you be willing to do all these things that you have to do, which are like take classes and get certified and have them severely look into your background and get cleared for all kinds of things. So basically, it's a huge, huge invasion of your privacy, but you have to know going in that this whole thing, that exactly is what it is. It's a huge invasion of your privacy and not in more ways than you will even imagine. Um, so you sign off on all of that, and then you'll have a worker contact you, and then they invite you to a seminar where they kind of re-explain everything that you've looked at online, but then you have a chance to ask any questions. And it does help because you're not the only one there. Usually there's about like anywhere from 5 to 20 families depending on the day that you go. um so there's things that you're not even thinking of that other people will ask, that kind of like, opens your mind to, like, what you could truly be dealing with. And then at the end of the seminar, you're given a piece of paper and you fill out your name, your address, your phone number, and if you are still interested in moving forward to become a foster parent or not. If you check no, they basically take your information and throw it in the garbage and they don't contact you again. If you check yes, then within a couple of weeks, you'll be called by another worker. They will start the process of like your fingerprints and your background checks and all that kind of stuff. They will come out a couple of times. They will do a home visit. They will give you a list of all of their recommendations for your home. They will show you what a full home study is and all that it entails. They will get into all of your business, but they will basically go through everything in your life. And I mean everything, like from the time that you were 18 until the current moment that they're in your house. They go to interview people at your job. They want to talk to your friends. They want to talk to your family. They go through like all your financial information, just like anything and everything that you could possibly imagine. I don't even think that like a criminal at any point goes through all of these checks and has to go through all of the basic hell that it is to do all of that. And if there's one thing that pops up, that's going to delay your whole system. And that's why it took us like 2.5 years to go through everything and get all of the paperwork and everything out of the way. After that, then you are invited to foster to adopt classes or foster classes, whichever you're doing. They also in our state, I forget what it's called, kinship. They do kinship also. So if you are a kinship family, meaning somebody else in your family or a friend of yours has a child that was removed and you are going to be the foster parent of that child, then they will also have you do all of these things. Just because the child is not any different, you still have to go through all the background checks, all the financial checks, all the classes, all the everything. And from what I hear, sometimes they are a little harder on kinship parents than they are foster kinship, whatever, than they are on regular foster parents or foster to adopt parents. Um, but I'm not 100% sure because that's not the route that we went. Then after that, the classes I think are like 6 to 8 weeks. You go once a week to the classes, and they're very long. They're like hours long. You learn all kinds of stuff, but it's not really the truth. Like they tell you it's the truth. They tell you they're going to give you the down and dirty of everything, and they leave out a lot of details. Because I get it, they don't want people to back out and not have foster parents. But there's a lot that like they should really be informing people of from the beginning, and they don't. In the training, you learn the basics of like, again, what it is to be a foster parent, the materials, the things that you will need to keep in your house or you will need to get. At some point, they may help you with like getting a bed. We've had them in the past help us get a crib. It depends on like the situation and how fast they want the child to come into your home. If you don't have something, they will work with you. They will buy it for you. But every situation is different. So I can't tell you that, okay, being a foster parent, they're going to buy you a bed and they're going to buy you this and that. No, they want you to be prepared and have everything that you need before the child comes in your home. They talk about like, a home visit, a home study, different things that you have to have in your house, that how things need to be prepared, certain temperatures that your water has to be, certain doors you can have with a lock on them, certain doors you cannot. Just different things. And again, every state, every county is completely different. So you have to make sure that you're learning what you need to learn for your county, your state, your area, for you. They will show you how to do like different situations on like how to do a proper safe hold on a child if they are out of control in your home.
So now you've gone through the process, or we've gone through the process at this point. What happens next?
So once your paperwork has been approved, your home study has been completed, which is that's just basically all of the information that they put together on you, your family, your house, all of that. Then you will have all your paperwork sent through the state. It has to go through a bunch of supervisors, and then they will approve you. So what that means is either you go into one of two roads at that point. You'll either get a call immediately because as soon as you are approved in their computer system, you can get a call for a child. Even if you haven't given them any information as to what kind of child you're looking for, what you're willing to deal with, any of that information, they will call you for any and every age. It doesn't matter. So you may get a phone call, and how it's going to be is they're going to be say, "Hi, this is so and so from DCP&P, as it is in our state, or whatever they call it in your state. Every state has a different name. And I have a child here that's whatever age, and I was wondering if now that you have your license opened, I see that in the computer system, if you are ready to accept the child." They don't give you half the information that you should know before a child walks in your house. So this is something that you probably will not hear, but this is very, very important. You need to sit down with your husband, wife, significant other, whatever you want to call them, whoever is in this with you, and you need to talk about, have a full-on conversation while you're going through this process before you even get to the phone call. What age are you willing to take? What behaviors are you willing to take? What special needs, if any, are you willing to deal with? I mean, all the way down to like if the child has a learning disability, and it's just something that you don't want to fight them with homework, like all the way to like if they're going insane and ripping your house apart, or if they're physically aggressive, like all the things that you could possibly think of, you need to write down what you will accept, what you won't accept, and have a list for yourself. And both of you should keep it with you, because nowadays with cell phones, they will call you at any time of day and blab off, "Oh, I have a child, da, 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 and will you take them?" And as soon as you say yes, they're showing up at your door, and there's not really going back from that. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where it's something that you already, before the child comes in your house, you can't handle, and then try to get yourself out of it. That is not an easy process. I mean, that's for another episode, but that is not an easy process, and that is not somewhere where you want to be. So you should have that conversation, have that list. With that list, you should also keep with you, again, a list of questions that you would like to know about the child to make a decision. So when I say questions, again, like what kind of mental health issues do they have? Were they born drug exposed? Were they born preemie? Are there any active medical conditions that they're currently being treated for? Is there any like major psychiatric or drug or any kind of to the extent of that going on in the family history? Obviously how old the child is, if they can give you a little bit of a background of the reason for removal. We're going to have to do another episode on this, but those are like the main things that I think of from the phone calls that I got, because I'm telling you, you will literally get name, age, we have this child. Do you have, if they're young enough to need a crib, do you have a crib? Or do we need to get you one? Or do you have an open bed? Or do we need to get you one? That's like the basic information they give you. And if you don't ask any questions, you're not going to get any more than just that. So that is, what I would see as my next step. If you don't get a phone call right away, it may just be because there's a lull in the system and there's enough foster homes, or there's nobody that is being removed at the time, which is a good thing. And it may take you a little while. We got our license, I want to say, in the mail within like 2.5, 3 weeks. Um, we did get a call before we actually got our license, but we were told that that is not something in our state that is very common. Now I think it is more because there's less and less foster parents in our state, so I know that has changed. Um, but that either one of those would be the next step. But you don't need that piece of paper in your hand to say that yes, you can take a child, or no, you can't.
So before I get to my last question for you, I do want to say if you're finding this content of value, please like, subscribe, and leave your comments below. The foster community it's quite the community, and it's very emotional, and it's not easy. Now, my last question for today is, how many kids can you have in a room? I mean, if you have a large house, is it one child for every room? Is it there's one child if they're older? How does it work with boys and girls? How does it work with bunk beds? Are you even allowed to have bunk beds if having the foster children come into your home? How does that work?
Specifically, number of kids that you can have in your room, it depends on how big your house is. Now, we live in a 3-bedroom house. I mean, yes, that may sound like a big house, but our house is not really that big. According to what the DCPMP requirements are, it's a certain amount of feet per child, and it depends on the age of the child. I believe there's 2 levels. I know when you're an infant until you're like 3, because that's when they are okay with the child in our state being put in a toddler bed. That's another thing that you should look into. Most states do not allow toddler beds. You either have to keep them in a crib until they get out of it themselves or whatever, and you can justify that this is what's going on, and now they need to be moved to a bed. In our state, they do let us have toddler beds, but it has to be 3 and 4, and that's it. Once you get to 5 years old, you have to be in a regular twin size bed. 2 available bedrooms for kids. One of them is bigger than the other, and I was shocked to find out that the smallest room in our house, they said that we can fit 4 children in. And when I say the smallest room in our house, the ceiling is cut like a barn ceiling. So it's not even like a full straight across ceiling regular room. So where you would be able to fit 4 kids, because you couldn't fit 2 sets of bunk beds in that room. I do not know how they think that's possible. I would never even try to fit that many kids in that room. There's no way. It would literally be unsafe. You'd have no room to get dressed. You'd have no room to move around, nothing. But that is what the requirement is. So again, just because they say, okay, yeah, you can fit 4 kids in this room, use your better judgment, because that could, again, come back at you at some point, because yes, they're saying you're legally approved to have this, but if a situation happens because you have too many kids in a room, then they're going to turn around and say, well, you went through foster classes, you were told that this could be a situation, and they're going to try to put it back on you. So if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then don't do it. We had the larger room, we had bunk beds in that room, 1 set of bunk beds. We could have had 3 sets of bunk beds in that room. Again, I don't know where we would have put them. You are not allowed to do the 3 on top of each other bunk beds. It has to be the double bunk bed, one on top of the other. If that's the case, and again, this is in our state, each state is different. If that's the case, and you do have bunk beds, then you cannot have a ceiling fan. You cannot have any kind of hanging light. It's got to be flat against the ceiling. You can't have the pot lights because they can shove things in there and it could cause a fire. So there's all kinds of fire safety things and, safety precautions that you need to take into consideration when you're dealing with the bunk beds, especially if you're going to have more than two kids in a room, because the more kids, the more problems they can come up with. And there's only one of you, so one of you against four kids is not going to work out very well. They're going to outsmart you. You also, in our state, I know most states, this is the same in most states, but again, check with your state. If you have, if you're just taking infants or babies or, like under one, I believe you can have boys or girls together, but they have to, like, as many as they'll approve in one room. But you have to have individual cribs for every single one of them. You cannot have any of them in a porta crib, or any kind of fold up crib. It's got to be like a wooden one piece of furniture put together, for each child. As they get older and over one, at least in New Jersey, you have to have them in a room with the same sex. You cannot mix sexes in one room. So in our case, we have two kids' bedrooms. We could do one boy's bedroom and one girl's bedroom. Again, they said that we could fit 6 boys in the boys' room and 4 girls in the girls' room. There's no way that was happening. So the most that we had at one time was we had 2 boys in the boys' room and then 1 girl in the girls' room. We kept, for a while, we were only keeping, having boys come. So then we had the second bedroom as a play room. But then we decided to open ourselves up to having a girl. So then we opened up the second bedroom to the girl.
Thank you. That was great information. I didn't even remember half of that. So my wife really laid out how the beginnings of becoming a foster parent really are, and the process that you go through to even become one. Thank you for watching. See you next time.